Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. I want to get into a series of cases. I mean, we got a lot of them. I'm holding a stack. You know, last week I was holding, and this week as well, I've been holding the brief that our briefing books for the International Criminal Court in The Hague. This is the case I'll be arguing in a couple of weeks. And we now have, I'm holding in this hand, a series of briefs to the Supreme Court of the United States on the issue of life. Now, a lot of these cases are huge ramifications, but I will tell you, this is also the first case involving the issue of abortion where you've got both Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh actually on the court. But I want to start with who is the main adversary here. As you know, we had a trial in California that went on for almost 6 weeks against our client, who was a former board member of the Center for Medical Progress. The case was brought by Planned Parenthood and others, and they try to shut down the ability of investigative journalism to take place. And the court issued a series of adverse rulings during the proceeding, and the jury came back with a verdict that we think is wrong, including fines against our client, which are now being appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals to the Ninth Circuit. But what I want to start with is who we're dealing with here, and that is Planned Parenthood. So I'm going to first to CeCe Heil. When you say Planned Parenthood, CeCe, what does that tell you?
The biggest provider of abortion in the world, probably across the world. And they will do whatever it takes to stay in business. They will fight tooth and nail, and they will do that proactively every time. And every time we have any kind of abortion issue, Planned Parenthood is always the opponent on the other side. You know,
we look at the case. We had some very unusual rulings in this case, I will say, including identifying our client, issues on Fifth Amendment privilege. That it's, again, Jordan, when we're dealing with Planned Parenthood, it's always the abortion distortion. It's the rules change because it's abortion, especially when it's Planned Parenthood.
Every normal court procedure goes out the door, rules go out the door, jury instructions go out the door, how you would treat information when it comes to what kind of standards of care that Planned Parenthood has got to operate under, and when they have these facilities performing actual abortion procedures, that gets thrown out the window. Everything. And that's why we call it abortion distortion. It's with the judges, with the legal standards, is that abortion gets treated differently
every time.
And what we're seeing now is these moves, and we're going to talk about it like in Virginia, to try and make a actual state constitutionally protected right to abortion.
They're going to amend the Constitution of Virginia.
Yeah.
We're going to get into that in a minute. But
that's when you get into real abortion distortion issues. Because then they're going to claim in court, well, see, in Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia is a constitutional right, which means it's got to put under this kind of scrutiny. And basically, what does that mean? Abortion on demand until the baby's literally being born.
Yeah, which, of course, we know the story in Virginia. Than, I think it's important for you to establish for our audience the size and the scope of what you're dealing with when you are dealing with Planned Parenthood across the street in the Capitol.
Yeah, look, it starts with what CeCe described, them being the abortion giant that dominates abortions around the world, 330,000 abortions every year. Jay, less than 4,000 prenatal clients. So if you have any question about the business that they're in, their own numbers will put that dispute to rest. But look, they are also one of the biggest political forces in Washington, D.C. I can tell you, it doesn't matter what week you pick when Congress is in session. If you walk down the street, you will run into representatives of Planned Parenthood's political action wing, and they will be advocating for abortion on demand. They will be advocating for a continuation of that $560 million approximately that they take from American taxpayers each and every year. So, Jay, they've got it on both sides. They're an abortion giant, yes, but they're also a political giant, and they are the main reason, Jay, where it is no longer viable to be a pro-life Democrat in Washington, D.C.
Your support of the ACLJ makes a huge difference. Let me encourage you to go to aclj.org. Any amount you donate, we get a matching gift for. aclj.org, but it takes your gift to start that. Again, aclj.org. We encourage you to be part of the team standing with us as we stand for life. Back with more in just a moment.
Thanks to your support of the ACLJ, we have had many victories.
The IRS now formally apologizing to Tea Party groups.
If any group feels like they're being targeted, they can go to federal court and bring our case. That's a victory.
It's one of the most significant wins in the ACLJ's history, to take on the IRS and win.
For more than 27 years, the ACLJ has been fighting for freedom and liberty in the United States and around the globe.
These are young people in their 20s and 30s that are doing this. They're fighting for life at a whole new level to beat back the abortion juggernaut. But I actually think we're winning this. This is one of the social issues we're winning.
The release of Andrew Brunson.
We're flying and they finally left Turkish airspace. It's like, okay, we're really out of Turkey and free again.
We need your help as we continue this work here in the United States and around the world. Join the matching challenge today, and your tax-deductible donation will be doubled.
We'll now recognize our witness. Pleased to welcome Ms. Cecile Richards, President of Planned Parenthood Federation of America. If you will please rise and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Startling revelations tonight that could put some in the abortion industry in a most uncomfortable position.
I'm proud to be here today speaking on behalf of Planned Parenthood, a leading provider of high-quality reproductive health care in America.
The fetal tissue is obtained with the pregnant woman's permission and can be useful investigating diseases.
Planned Parenthood has been in the news recently because of deceptively edited videos released by a group that is dedicated to making abortion illegal.
Planned Parenthood's Senior Director of Medical Services says prices per body part specimen would likely range from $30 to $100.
The outrageous accusations leveled against Planned Parenthood are offensive and categorically untrue.
I think what we need to look at is the business of abortion. And the business of abortion starts with a sale.
An organization is chopping up children and selling the body parts to the highest bidder.
They could call it whatever they like. The reality is they've been caught red-handed.
I was told it was just a blob of tissue. She looked me dead in the eye. She said, it's not a baby. It's a blob of tissue.
We really did treat women like second-class citizens.
Do not ever kid yourself. They know exactly what they're doing.
We were driven by this quota.
I didn't want the baggage, in all honesty, of having a child.
I pretended I was fine, but I wasn't fine.
She said, this is the best choice for you.
They're in the business of abortion. They worship at the altar of abortion.
Most people working in the abortion clinic make more money than they can anywhere else.
Does no one see what's really going on in America? Is this really who we're going to be?
Can you tell me how many of your affiliates receive the majority of their revenue from abortion?
I don't know that answer.
Could you get it for me?
I'll talk to my team.
Thanks.
But I do think it's important to understand that abortion procedures are probably more expensive than some other procedures that we provide, which might explain what you're trying to get at.
Fear is probably the biggest reason why these girls have an abortion. A lot of them know that it's wrong. A lot of them don't want to do it, but they feel like it's their only way of surviving their life. I just can't have this baby. The guy's not going to stand by me. My parents will not stand by me. My mom's telling me to have it. My friend has had one in the past and she says, just do it, just suck it up for this half an hour and go through this horrible thing and your life will be back to normal.
Crisis pregnancies have all kinds of circumstances that surround them. Perhaps they're young and unmarried. Perhaps they're in an economically compressed circumstance or maybe even a depressed circumstance. It may be that they have family pressures. There may be stigma that is sure to be placed on them if they carry a child to term.
Because she's scared, because she already has other children, because she's poor, because she's single, because the guy ran out on her, because she's in college, because she wants to finish her education, because she just got a promotion at work and she doesn't want to, she doesn't want a baby to come in between her and her career goals. because she doesn't want to disappoint her parents, because she was raised in the church and she doesn't want anybody to know that she was having sex.
They're confused, they're hurt, they're scared, and abortion is presented as the easy alternative, the painless alternative to eliminate the problem.
I didn't want the baggage, in all honesty, of having a child while I was in college, because I had a vision for my life and it didn't include children.
I don't have a car, I don't drive, I have no money, you know. So yeah, the ideal thing would be to have an abortion. And that's what I had 100% decided to do.
It was my third pregnancy in my second marriage with an agreement there would be no more children. Of course, I never expected to get pregnant. And when I found myself pregnant, Roe v. Wade had just happened. It was all in the news. I called my doctor. He said, no problem. We can take care of it.
I remember walking out from the bathroom, holding the pregnancy test and telling my boyfriend at the time, I'm pregnant. You know, my mind was blank. I had no idea what to do. And so I guess I was looking to him for some answers. And I just remember he looked at me and he said, well, that's not a problem. He said, I've taken other girls to abortion clinics. We'll just take you to a clinic and get it taken care of. And, you know, I would like to tell you that I thought, well, wait a minute, you know, let's talk about this. But I didn't. I just said, okay.
Sat through the counseling part of it. And of course, it was very, you're too young. You know, this is probably going to be your best option. I remember very, very vividly them saying that. So I thought, okay, we borrowed money from his best friend, and at the time that friend was the only one who knew about it, and made the appointment, and I went back the following week.
My mom said to me, she says, if you have this baby, you'll have to do it by yourself. She says, or you can have an abortion. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, I can have an abortion? Well, let's do that. I mean, I'm 14, I don't want to be pregnant at high school. And so if it's coming from my mom, surely, you know, it's a good decision. So, okay, yeah, let's do that.
A friend came running in and he said, Jonesy, your girlfriend's on the phone. She's crying. So I ran out, I answered the phone, and she just kept saying over and over and over again, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It wasn't me. And then her father said over the other line, Jason, we know your secret, and your secret's gone. We took Katie to get an abortion.
In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortions. The majority in cases from Texas and Georgia said that the decision to end a pregnancy during the first 3 months belongs to the woman and her doctor, not the government.
One of the things that most Americans think, and think wrongly, is that abortion began with Roe v. Wade. The truth is that every single civilization throughout all of antiquity and all the way up to the present time has had as a major component part of the culture abortion.
I think from the very beginning, I came with a large family. My mother died young, 11 children. That made an impression on me as a child. I was a trained nurse, went among the people. I saw women who asked to have some means whereby they wouldn't have to have another pregnancy too early after the last child, the last abortion, which many of them had. So there's a number of things that are one after the other that really made you feel that you had to do something.
According to New York Health Department statistics, we now know that there are more African-American babies that are aborted in New York than actually born alive.
Of course, the lack of access for African-American women, in particular, to basic preventive health care, including family planning, is a huge problem in this country.
It is,
well.
and I don't want to spend, and I agree with you, that's as a aforementioned time of places that we've served and worked in, but it does concern me that 3 times the African-American population is 13%, yet they're being aborted 3 times percent of the population at 35%.
At the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century, there were a number of revolutionary figures who wanted to remake the world. as a kind of revolutionary challenge to remake it in a kind of pseudo-scientific fashion. They wanted to usher in Tomorrowland.
Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger, who was the founder of that organization, were eugenicists. And eugenicists are not killing babies because of some political issue. They are on a mission to purify.
Planned Parenthood began as a eugenics movement. This was to create the superior race. And the target of Planned Parenthood were those that they deemed to be less desirable. And they viewed the minorities in our communities as the least desirable.
She believed that sexuality is a powerful engine to drive social change. And so she sought to usher in this revolutionary new age, starting with human sexuality, and do it by scientific means, by eliminating unwanted people groups, what she called human weeds. And the human weeds were specifically identified as blacks, Hispanics, Eastern Europeans, Slavs. She believed that these were sort of lower on the evolutionary chain. And so to bring about this new age of a race of thoroughbreds, as she called them, you had to eliminate the bad gene stocks out of the human gene pool. Well, abortion, birth control, those kinds of things really emerged out of that ideology. It wasn't medicine. It wasn't to help women. It wasn't to give freedom of choice. It was really, how do we reshape society?
Planned Parenthood had a history, according to its foundress, Margaret Sanger, of targeting Negro leaders. And she said, Negroes are like weeds who need to be exterminated. We don't want that word to get out. So what we need to do is to cultivate some of their leaders, get them on our side, have them think that we want to help them. This is how Planned Parenthood went after African-American leaders. They still do it today.
The eugenics movement is dead. They don't call it eugenics anymore. Planned Parenthood doesn't use the word eugenics. But the fact of the matter is, the result that they're getting is exactly the same. It's the elimination of a race. Where are these abortions taking place? Minority communities.
Join the conversation about this topic on our Facebook page, the ACLJ's Facebook page, mine, my dad's Facebook page as well, at Jay Sekulow, and online as well at aclj.org.
Thanks to your support of the ACLJ, we have had many victories.
The IRS now formally apologizing to Tea Party groups.
If any group feels like they're being targeted, they can go to federal court and bring our case. That's a victory.
It's one of the most significant wins in the ACLJ's history, to take on the IRS and win.
For more than 27 years, the ACLJ has been fighting for freedom and liberty in the United States and around the globe.
These are young people in their 20s and 30s that are doing this. They're fighting for life at a whole new level to beat back the abortion juggernaut. But I actually think we're winning this. This is one of the social issues we're winning.
The release of Andrew Brunson.
We're flying and they finally left Turkish airspace. It's like, okay, we're really out of Turkey and free again.
We need your help as we continue this work here in the United States and around the world. Join the matching challenge today, and your tax-deductible donation will be doubled.
All right, I mentioned what happened in the case involving Planned Parenthood, the trial that went on for 5 weeks, now on appeal. No shock there. But the rules were different, Harry. The rules are different when it's abortion. The rules not just at the Supreme Court, but even in a trial proceeding. Absolutely. All of a sudden, you know, you got a Fifth Amendment privilege to not testify for self-incrimination because there's been criminal charges raised against some of these pro-life participants. All these rules change. Inferences from the fact that you did not, if you exercise your constitutional privilege, now it's a negative inference, different than in other cases.
Absolutely. And so I think it's very, very important to note that Planned Parenthood, along with its supporters, is animated by an anti-life, pro-eugenics agenda. And in any individual who was nominated by a Democratic president, probably over the last 20 to 30 years, more likely than not, shares the presumption that the elimination of life and, in many cases, the sale of baby body parts those are absolutely fine so long as it advances the anti-life agenda of Planned Parenthood. And so we live in a country, and particularly if you focus on the state of California, where the rights of pro-lifers are given short shrift, while the rights of pro-abortion folks are elevated. And so you have a consistent pattern, starting with the Attorney General of California, who was initially Kamala Harris, and now Xavier Becerra, who is the current Attorney General of California. They are leading the effort to advance Planned Parenthood's anti-life, pro-eugenics agenda in California, and that is also true in New York State and in Virginia and many states in the United States.
So we have filed 2 Supreme Court briefs on petitions for certiorari that have been filed in the case. So one is the case involves Dr. Rebecca G. versus the June Medical Services. This case, which we filed the initial brief in, will break new ground in protecting babies for abortion. This is what it is. The case involves the constitutionality of a Louisiana state law requiring doctors who perform abortion to have admitting privileges in a nearby hospital. The Supreme Court struck down a similar law in 2016, but the Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit upheld Louisiana's law, holding that the requirement did not impose a substantial burden on women's abortion access. The Fifth Circuit explained how the Louisiana law had minimal impact on abortion clinics within the state. But you would think a basic admission privilege for a doctor performing surgery, CC, would make a lot of sense. If you were having another ambulatory medical procedure, usually admission privileges would be part of the deal.
Right.
But not
Planned
here.
Parenthood and sense don't go in the same sentence ever. Nothing they do is logical. So, in this situation, they will fight against admitted privileges. They'll fight against having a medical doctor perform the abortion. They will fight against sterile operating rooms. They fight against anything that is common sense to protect a woman in this situation in a medical procedure. They fight against all of them because all they want is abortion.
But basic, hospital inspection, ambulatory surgery centers, these kind of things, Jordan, would normally be not even an issue. Who would challenge whether the state has the right to come in and check this? But in this case, it's abortion. You can't touch it.
Can't touch it. Can't check this. Can't look into this matter. Can't have your admitting privileges. You don't have to be like a normal doctor and have admitting privileges into a hospital somewhere, or especially a doctor who's performing surgical procedures in their office. This is not like a pediatrician's office. They are performing surgical procedures in their office, and they're saying, no, we don't have to have admitting privileges to like a hospital if something goes wrong. They are not. These are surgical procedures they're performing. I don't think they dispute that. They just want to play it, but they just want to be treated differently because they think if you're trying to do anything to them, you must be trying to shut us down, even when you're just trying to hold them to the normal standards that every other one has to stay. And you know why they don't like these procedures? Money.
We said in our brief, moreover, the abortion businesses, which have profit motives for women to choose abortion, cannot be relied upon to present the full picture. Indeed, such businesses may be using statistics beside the flaws that we've discussed in our brief to help sell abortion to trusting women. And there's no doubt that they're in the abortion business. Now, what's significant here is that this is the first abortion case taken by the Supreme Court since the president's nominees, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, were confirmed. So the case will have, I think, really significant ramifications. CC, you handled a series of cases, and I remember these when we had success before the Supreme Court of the United States on these crisis pregnancy centers, women's health centers. And they are constantly targeted by groups like Planned Parenthood. They don't even want the alternative to be presented.
No, that's exactly right. And a lot of times because they have ultrasound machines. And that, it is proven statistically that once a woman sees their baby in an ultrasound, 80% of them, and it could be higher than that now, but 80% of them choose to keep their baby. Well, obviously, that's not what Planned Parenthood wants. Planned Parenthood is not about planning parenthood. It's about aborting babies. They don't want you to see your baby. Even when they do abortions, they don't allow the mothers to see the ultrasound that happens while they're doing the abortion because they don't want her to see the life that's in her. Yeah. And so they fight the crisis pregnancy centers because they actually have an effect of helping mothers see that they have a baby and they choose to keep that baby, and that's not their goal.
I think it's a quintessentially important point to note that the safety of women at an abortion facility is a huge concern. And that concern is a very legitimate concern. But Planned Parenthood and many Planned Parenthood supporters are quite willing to ignore the safety of women when the issue is abortion, in part because the preeminent value for many of these individuals is the reification of human autonomy as a goal, as an objective. But for Planned Parenthood, the reification of personal autonomy as a goal or as an objective is grounded in the pursuit of one thing and one thing only, and that is profits. And so essentially they're quite willing to say, oh, let's take a greater degree of risk with respect to the life of the mother when it comes to the issue of abortion. And it's also very important to note that Planned Parenthood is prepared to ignore the abysmal track record of Planned Parenthood clinics in the United States.
So you got Planned Parenthood, the operator, then you have abortionists as well. Then you have their groups who are there just to push the abortion agenda on the policy level, the political level. So they have all these subsidiary groups as well. I think that's what's important to remember. When you take on an abortion organization that's tied to Planned Parenthood, you're not just taking on the $1 billion a year Planned Parenthood organization. That means you're taking on huge law firms that they have on mega retainers.
In the case in California, we were fighting the biggest.
Yes, and they do this around the country. So huge law firms, all these interest groups that exist only to promote abortion, like NARAL.
Yep.
They're just there to support Planned Parenthood on the periphery of all the issues and the political issues. So, yeah, you take them on, you're taking on one of the biggest interest groups in the country.
Support the work of the ACLJ. You could do that as we fight Planned Parenthood around the country. ACLJ.org. That's ACLJ.org. Your support for the work of the ACLJ keeps us in court in the United States, at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, at the UN, at the Supreme Court of the United States. ACLJ.org. Support the work of the ACLJ now. Your donation is doubled.
Thanks to your support of the ACLJ, we have had many victories.
The IRS now formally apologizing to Tea Party groups.
If any group feels like they're being targeted, they can go to federal court and bring our case. That's a victory.
It's one of the most significant wins in the ACLJ's history, to take on the IRS and win.
For more than 27 years, the ACLJ has been fighting for freedom and liberty in the United States and around the globe.
These are young people in their 20s and 30s that are doing this, are fighting for life at a whole new level to beat back the abortion juggernaut. But I actually think we're winning this. This is one of the social issues we're winning.
The release of Andrew Brunson.
We're flying and they finally left Turkish airspace. It's like, okay, we're really out of Turkey and free again.
We need your help as we continue this work here in the United States and around the world. Join the matching challenge today, and your tax-deductible donation will be doubled.